Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Rainbow Warrior. Today, I want to talk about change. I want to talk about showing up, sharing the voice, judgment, humiliation, all of these things, why people get attacked when they show up online, why people get attacked in person. And I'm going to delve deep into the antidotes of why this happens. So please join me and welcome. So, let's get started. The truth of why we find it difficult. So there's this theme of change coming up at the moment, this huge collective change for humanity. I've felt it deeply. I've gone through a deep awakening where I increased the auto sensitivity of my body through purification. And it's a double-edged sword, like I've said on other videos on Prophecy Walkers, where I can feel everything, including what the collective is going through. And so that means that I have to really come into my own energy. Otherwise, I start feeling miserable from all these collective energies that are going on at the moment because there's a lot going on. And what I find at the moment is that people don't want change because they're afraid of losing things, and it's an illusion. It's an illusion that's promoted by the ego, the fear of death, because the ego will die. It's this evolution. Where because if you realize the definition of immortality isn't to live forever, it's to live in the present moment where the past leaves and the future hasn't happened yet. So you're constantly in the present. Now, what I learned on my journey is that if you believe you are someone, then you're living in the past. And if you're trying to be someone, you're living in the future. And so immortality is when you are dying and recreating in every single moment constantly. So you can't live in the present. Sorry, so you can't live in the past or the future. You're constantly in the present, constantly evolving. But and I've spoken about this with the ego. The ego represents stagnation. It represents the zero, the circle of non-evolution, the pool of black goo, the narcissism that stops us from facing our fears and growing and evolving and dying and living and being reborn. And that can happen in the body. The body doesn't have to die. We don't leave the body. There's a spiritual reincarnation. People call them walk-ins. And this is what I've been doing for the past 5 years with my partner. And it's been incredibly challenging, but also incredibly rewarding. But the problem when you pioneering this self-evolution of purification is that my vibration doesn't fit with the rest of the world. And so people can't feel this vibration of love that emits from me because it hasn't it's not the norm. And so when I encounter people, I think people call them normies, when I encounter normies and I show them love, sometimes in the past, I get difficult reactions, like reactions of, I don't know how to deal with this. And what I realized on my journey is that if I had that wounding in me, it would have that reaction in the other because they're my mirror. And because I went on such a deep purification journey and I've healed this, you come out and pop out the other side when you realize that when I realized that every time I believed I was someone or I was behaving out of sync with my heart, I realized that I'm still striving to integrate and purify to who I truly am. And there's three lines of consciousness to do that. First, I started on purifying myself on my own journey. Then I met my partner Hazel, and we worked on the second line of consciousness. And then by coming working with an audience, for example, I come into the third line of consciousness. So my partner and I have a joint YouTube channel called Prophecy Walkers, and this is our connection to the tribe, to the third line of consciousness. And there's this big change coming for the tribe, and it affects us on the one and the two. And the quickest way to heal it, like what I did, is to work in the two with a partner, but you first have to take your own journey in order to meet that partner. And when I say partner, I mean friend. It has to happen through friendship. Sex is a big no-no in this stage of evolution because it's tainted. It's tainted with too many impurities. My partner and I were friends for 11 months before we even admitted any kind of feelings of love. And it's a profound journey because when you meet in friendship, you're meeting in true love, and you can get to know each other first before any judgments can come in. And this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about judgments because this is why people are afraid to turn up. Like I'm working with people personally, and I'm asking them, turn up. Don't be afraid to share your voice. And a voice is very powerful, very powerful. And it's really an expression of who we are. It's the throat chakra is between the earth chakra and the root chakra. It actually goes black, blue, red. And it comes from that deep, from our purpose and up to the throat. And so when you're working with that level of um, depth and raw power, it can be really frightening because it's an enormous amount of love, right? And so when we're speaking our voice, not only does it come through the first chakra, but it goes through the whole being of who we are, our sacral, our solar, our heart, etc. And so what we're doing when we're speaking is we're showing who we truly are. And if we're afraid to be who we are, to show who we are, then there's fear there. And so you always have to come back and ask yourself the question, why am I afraid? What is the fear? What am I afraid of? And then you need to look at that fear. And most of the fears that come up with sharing with the voice are judgment and humiliation. And these judgments and humiliation can come from jealousy. And jealousy is a distortion on admiration. And I've had to clean this out of my system. If you listen to my podcast on the wasp spirit, I talk about my journey with jealousy. But it gets really profound because I had to turn it back on myself and realized I was jealous of myself. So it gets really, really weird when you go deep and really pure. And these narcissistic projections in commentary culture of what we get on the internet, like this isn't freedom of speech. We've done videos on this. Freedom of speech is speaking words of love, not of judgment and hatred. Narcissism is the definition of finding weakness, searching for weakness and commenting on it, judging it. And if you're afraid of that, that means that you're emitting that, which means you have that wound within you. So for example, if I told you to start a YouTube channel and start sharing how you feel, honestly, like not how you want people to feel, but how you actually feel, does that terrify you? If it does, ask yourself why. And this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the judgments. Um, judgments come from that place of I'm better than you. That's where they come from. Don't believe that the judgments of others aren't the judgments that you have of yourself. Those judgments come from within. To understand judgments, you just have to mirror them. So if you're afraid of of someone judging you for sounding stupid, why do you think that you sound stupid? If you're afraid of someone judging you for ugly, why do you think that you are ugly? Why do you think that you are ugly? And you just keep mirroring it all the way back. And this is how you do the healing. And so for example, it doesn't matter how you do the healing. If you do it through dancing or meditation or plant medicine or psychotherapy, you focus on that feeling and you either analyze it, open it, or feel it and allow it to go. And that's one of those are some of the ways that you can heal those inner judgments. And also, judgments come from right or wrong, guilty or innocent, where there is no such thing as right or wrong. That's just an opinion, because what you think is right or wrong is different from what I think is right and wrong. Because when you work in the realms of love, everything is love and everything is something that we have chosen. And when we don't fit in with those choices that we made, that can lead to self-righteousness, passive aggression, and guilt, the feeling of guilt because of the choices that we made. But these are all things that we can let go of through self-forgiveness. And what I always say about judgments is that they are incredible for self-healing. And I'm going to link this to triggers because judgments tell us what we're afraid of. So if I have a judgment, so I'll share a judgment that I have, right? I have a judgment that people don't listen to me, people don't listen to my videos. And I went through this in a process of blaming the collective, like, why aren't people listening? It's probably for this reason. And these were judgments. And so I sat with them and turned it back on myself and realized I wasn't listening to myself. And this is really important for me because it comes from a really deep wound well, I went really deep with it. Like I went to past lifetimes where because it hides in the DNA. Like first you can come into this lifetime. So why am I not listening to myself? So maybe my parents taught me not to listen to myself because they didn't listen to themselves, right? And then it goes out into society. The teacher wasn't listening to me, blah, 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 blah. And those are correct, and that brings a certain level of healing. But once you've healed this life, you can go even deeper. And I went back to the first time that that wound was created, and it was really sad and really horrific. That's what it took years to get to that wound. And essentially, I was a child and I knew that there was an attack coming on my tribe, but because I was a child, I couldn't say the words, and so I said it through feeling. I said it through feeling, through vibration, and they didn't feel my vibration, and my whole tribe was killed, genocide, and I was put in a basket and put down a river, and I was found by a woman, and I was brought up. So that was really profound, and the level of grief that came up with that was just astronomical. It took a long time to cry that out of me. It took well, I think I first started doing it in June of 2024, and only recently finished grieving it because it was so deep, so deep. And so these kinds of deep wounds are what people are throwing around the place. It's a collective theme, genocide. Dogma is a collective theme. There's so many collective wounds, and those collective wounds affect us on the one and the two. So can you imagine the pain that people are going through and they're not aware of it? You have this. It's deep within your DNA, deep, deeply unconscious wounds. We live for so many lifetimes and we reincarnate and we have to live with what we've been through. And we're playing this game and we're not playing against a fair side, you know. We have to play for love, but when we're playing against fear, it's very difficult. And so when people are wounded, they express these judgments and these insults and bullying and hatred and narcissistic attacks to anyone that essentially triggers that love within them. And so if you turn up and show your light and you start sharing your voice like I'm doing now, it'll either cause people to turn off, to switch off, or to go, oh, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or there'll be some negative reaction if you're not used to looking at yourself, and this is leads to triggers. What I want to talk about is triggers. Triggers are when the wound is pressed, and it's like separation causes the wound. So like I split my head open several times. I got a little scar here where I had 15, 14 stitches, and the wound is created by separation. So the separation that created that wound was jealousy. I was racing a friend and he tripped me up and I landed forehead on a bench. I was only 6 years old or 7 years old, and the love that comes in to heal that is painful. It's like, when your mum touches you after you've fallen off your bike or something, it hurts. And so people blame love because it hurts. But what hurt more, the separation or the love, right? And what caused it, the separation and love, is the separation. And so people have been brainwashed and taught through the ego and entity attachments through so many different avenues. If you listen to my podcast on the fly, it talks about this, the infiltration of the soul through the third eye. It creates all these wounds of separation and tries to turn love on its head so that we can't identify it and witness it and recognize it within ourselves. And we put it outside of ourselves and we project it onto other people. So if you have this projection about yourself that you're ugly, you might think the person on screen is ugly because dogma teaches us that everything's outside of us, but it's a projection of what's going on inside in your soul, because the third eye is the window to the soul. This is why the Illuminati hijacked it, because if they can hijack the third eye, they can get us to believe anything. Big one, big one. So triggers are when somebody is pressing on the wound and we react. The antidote is not to react. And again, this is to do with the third eye, reaction, responsibility. That each chakra has its own definable meaning. Like I do this with the spirit animals. For example, the root chakra is about life, sacral is about passion, solar is about fertility, the heart is about purity, the throat is about sanctity, the third eye is about ability. What's the biggest ability that we have in our lives to make change? Response, responsibility. You need to take responsibility for your triggers, and you turn those triggers back on yourself and realize, why am I doing that to myself? What is that wound? Instead of firing that hatred or that narcissistic behavior towards another. Every narcissist was abused. Every abuser was abused. Every abuser is an abuser, but every abuser was turned into an abuser. It's this generation now, our generation, my generation, your generation, the generation that comes after me, it's our responsibility to say it stops here now. It stops here now. And this is what I'm doing with my bloodline, with my heritage. I take responsibility and I say it stops here now. I don't want to pass this on to anyone else. But our parents and our grandparents and our parents before that, there was only so much they could deal with because they didn't know how to deal with it. But if you listen to my podcast, episode 22 on the fly, I talk about how I discovered the antidote to all of this with my partner. I discovered the antidote, how to heal it all. And you can work with us. You can work with us. It's really good fun. It's really good fun to heal yourself. I'm going to move on to illusions, right? So this is linked to the third eye as well, right? So all these triggers and judgments, these are illusions, and we live in most of us live into under this veil of illusion, this veil of shame that we're not even aware of, and it's a veil that we create ourselves through this control and hijacking of the third eye, through violent movies, through media, through stories. Basically, when we're not creating our own life and we're sat watching somebody else's story and it's been infiltrated by with darkness instead of love, then we start repeating that. The soul sees what's coming in because it's being mirrored back, and through dogma, we recreate that feeling within ourselves. So, for example, if you're watching EastEnders or something where there's just loads of miserable people complaining all the time, you start to project that in yourself and you start complaining and becoming miserable all the time. So it's important to not be on social media. I think you should ban social media for like 6 days a week, or you're not allowed to go on it after five or something. It's really that destructive. It's destroying humanity, and it's causing people to refuse to look within. All of it is within. Everything is a mirror because through oneness and through this projection, the third eye is like a movie projector. It projects. It's the window to the soul, so it projects what's going on the inside, but on the outside. And so if what's going on the inside isn't very nice, you'll project that onto what you're looking at. But you have to realize that everyone's a mirror. So if you see something in me that, for example, it works with love as well. Like if you see that I'm really intelligent or a really good speaker, that's also within you. That's also within you because I'm a strong mirror. I'm a powerful, pure mirror. And I've been working on that for so long because I sat in front of my partner, I sat in front of the opposite sex to cleanse all of that out of my system. And I want to talk about light now. So the exposure. So we're in summer, which is in the northern hemisphere, which I think is a huge a majority of the population of the planet live in the northern hemisphere compared to the southern hemisphere. And so in this light of the summer, there's this huge amount of exposure, and light exposes the darkness that doesn't want to be seen, the distorted darkness, and people try to shy away from that. And if you realize that you are light, and that when you get close to someone or you speak the truth, you that is also exposure. So people can react negatively to that exposure because it is painful for them. Remember what I said earlier about the wound. When love comes in, it heals separation, and it's painful. People are covered in wounds and scars, it's like death by a thousand cuts. Everybody's wounded, everyone. So that's going on at the moment. It's going on. It's been going on for a long time, but it's really coming to a crunch point at the moment. It's really coming to a crunch point. Let me just sort of focus out on this camera. This always bloody happens. It's a bit better. Okay. So, yeah. And it's not about coming down to meet others. It's about people coming up to meet you. We should be looking up to each other, peer to peer. I always say this in my podcast. I look up to you. I look up to you. We should look up to each other, not look down on each other. That's narcissistic behavior. And there's so many misconceptions about narcissism. There's no such thing as healthy narcissism. There may be healthy shame and toxic shame, but there's no such thing as healthy narcissism. Narcissism is the opposite of love. It's toxic shame avoidance. It's avoidance. There's no such thing as healthy narcissism. It's the root of all evil. It's incredible how ignorant people are to the destructive power of narcissism, and how nobody's taken responsibility for it. Everybody wants to go, oh, that person's narcissism, that's person's narcissism. I always say start with number one. When I realized, I went to my psychotherapist and I got all these horrible thoughts in myself where I think everybody's a this or that, and he said, yeah, that's narcissism. I was like, okay. So I went to meet my partner, who was my friend, never met before, and she said, "Oh, I just went through a horrible divorce." She explained all of his toxic behavior, and I said, "That's narcissism." She goes, "How do you know that?" I go, "Because I'm healing that within myself, and that's how I would have treated you because it's narcissistic." She was like, had a full-on walk-in right there and then because it was so true for her. And then she stuck with me, and I stuck with her, and we sat with each other, speaking with each other for 1,000 days straight, at least, no interruptions, at least speaking 8 hours a day, just exposing everything that we had against each other, any judgments we had against each other, any narcissism, any triggers, and we would just mirror it back to each other every day, and it's so powerful. I quantum leaped in a few months the level of healing I did with her that would have probably taken at least a year or years on my own. That's how powerful it is to work with the opposite sex, because you're filling in the gaps, because essentially when you work with your twin flame, it's you're speaking to your other half. So your other half is able to show you the other half that you're not seeing. It's profound. So I invite you to stand tall in your truth, to not be afraid to speak up, and to do it for yourself. If you're speaking to an audience and you have judgments from that audience, even though you're speaking to yourself, like I'm speaking to myself now, right? Because I'm just speaking to a screen, I'm speaking to a camera, so I'm just speaking to myself. And I do it for myself because I'm interested in this work. I'm not doing it to because I think you're interested in it. I hope you are. But I'm doing it because it's great integration for me. And I'll look back on this one day and I'll go, yeah, this is really good. Yeah, yeah. And I may have judgments on myself, but I'll turn those into positive judgments and go, wow, look at me learning there. Look at this, look at that. And I'm saying this because I'm started a movement, a love movement with my partner called Say Hello to Prophecy Walkers, where we're getting people to come out and confess, expose the difficulties of the life that they're going through, and we're sending those replies. You can check it out on Prophecy Walkers, and it's everyone is suffering. It's this never-ending fight at the moment. But I'm saying, and we're saying, that you don't have to suffer alone. It's easier than you think, and it's not as terrifying as you think. And the antidote essentially is to heal that which you're not looking at, because that's what's attracting what you're not enjoying in your life. So if you're attracting poverty, where is that abundance in your life? That anything can be healed, disease, it's all linked to emotion. Your relationships, not meeting the man of your life, the woman of your life, sexual distortions, judgments you have on yourself, grandiose narcissism, neglect, covert narcissism, victim, perpetrator, drama triangle, all of that stuff. Anything, absolutely anything that is not love can be healed through this reverence of acknowledgement and self-healing through this exposure of love, essentially. And I have to say that I do this for a living. It's my passion, and running out of money. Would really appreciate some donations. Really mean a lot to me. I've had two donations so far, and I'm very thankful for those donations. And some friends have given me donations. My partner Hazel's asking for donations as well. I'd really appreciate if you could find it in your heart to send me some donations. Link is below. I really hope this is helpful for you. And if donations don't work for you, I also offer services that are on my website. Check out thesacredrainbowwarrior.com. And if you have any questions, I'm always here to answer them. Thank you very much for listening. Bye bye.